Welcome to a very special holiday edition of Quality Time with MoreSteam. I am your host, Dan Swartwout. We are right in the middle of the holiday season. And like last year, I wanted to do something just a little bit different for today's episode. Instead of our usual format, we are once again taking a creative detour while the year winds down and your inbox fills up. Last year, we did a holiday-themed episode that took a familiar seasonal classic and gave it a Lean Six Sigma twist. So why not do it again? Let's make it a tradition. People like traditions around the holidays, right? Going to ugly sweater parties, debating whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie, and listening to another festive episode of Quality Time with MoreSteam. So once again, I thought this would be the perfect time to bring some Lean Six Sigma cheer into your holiday celebrations with a fun twist on a classic tale. And as always, after this little seasonal detour, we will be back in 2 weeks with a more traditional episode of Quality Time with MoreSteam. Until then, happy holidays from all of us here at MoreSteam. Please enjoy today's episode, which is being narrated by MoreSteam's own Josh Cantie. Thank you for being here. We appreciate all of your support in 2025, and we'll see you in 2026 after today's episode.
The afternoon of December 22nd had its own kind of quiet. Even the keyboards were typing a little slower than usual. Up on the third floor, under the hum of fluorescent lights, sat Grant Gemberson, Vice President of Operations and undefeated champion of Don't Rock the Boat. He was staring at a calendar invite. Year-end Kaizen event, confirmed. Grant sighed, clicked, and dragged the invitation right into January. There, he muttered. Save the team from another distraction. We don't have time for Kaizen, not now. He shut his laptop with the sense of virtue only a busy executive can summon and headed home. That night, as most of the city turned off its screens, Gemberson's mind kept spinning. Forecasts, back orders, that one customer threatening to escalate the situation. From the racks and stacks is the best on wax, all the greatest hits on repeat. Grant rolled over, trying to sleep. That's when he heard it, the soft thump of a very heavy binder landing on a desk. He opened his eyes. Standing at the foot of his bed was a figure covered in name badges, project charters, and A3 paper. The figure then picked up that heavy binder, which was thick and well-worn with endless sticky notes poking out from the edges. I am the ghost of projects past, the figure said. And we need to talk. Gemberson squinted. You look like our old black belt. The ghost smiled. Do I? I'm surprised you remembered. Don't worry, though. I'm not here to schedule a 3-day workshop. Then the ghost waved its hand and the room disappeared. Suddenly, Grant was back in the old conference room, the one with the crackling speakerphone and the chairs that always sat too low. But this time, the energy was different. On the walls, hand-drawn value stream maps and spaghetti diagrams. Around the table, operators, supervisors, engineers. They were arguing a little, laughing a little more, and actually engaged in problem solving. Gemberson saw a younger version of himself at the whiteboard. His sleeves were rolled up, he held a marker in his hand. The younger Grant Gemberson was into the whole process improvement thing. Remember this? The ghost asked. Gemberson nodded slowly. Yeah, that first big improvement effort way back when. We pulled some people off the line for a week. Everyone thought we were crazy. On the wall, they watched the story unfold. The team mapped the current state, which needed fixing. They ran small experiments. Some worked, some didn't. They moved a few things around and retired a couple of sacred cows that were just the way we've always done things around here. Then the pilot went live. Flow was smoother, fewer surprises. Handoffs made more sense. People weren't constantly hunting for tools or information. You could actually feel the stress level drop a notch. I remember walking through here after we launched this, Gemberson said quietly. It just felt calmer. People weren't thinking they'd need to put out a fire every day. The ghost coolly nodded. You did good work, the ghost said. People were proud of this. They told their friends, hey, we actually fixed some things and made our days a little better. But then, the scene shifted forward a few months. The boards and charts were still there, but the updates were less frequent. There was a promotion here, a reorg there. The project lead was moved to a different location. The new manager had other priorities. By the next year, Gemberson's area looked familiar, back to the way it was before the big improvement effort. No single event was responsible for the backslide. It was just gravity. No conspiracy, the ghost said softly, just attention drift. People changed roles. The new boss loved colorful charts, but hated actual conversations. The system quietly pulled everything back to where it had been. Gemberson watched in uncomfortable silence. You tell this story to yourself as proof that these things don't last here, the ghost continued. But that's not what happened. Okay, then what did happen? Gemberson asked. The ghost shook its head and tapped the old binder. This was a good project. Your team made real improvements, not just to the bottom line, but also for the people at the Gemba, Gemberson. But the lessons that you learned never got woven into your standard work, the ghost said. When the project leader and champions moved on, the new habits went with them. The ghost closed the binder gently. The mistake wasn't doing this work, the ghost said. The mistake was the lesson you took from it. Gemberson looked at his younger self, who was still at the board, still energized by the process. Then Gemberson thought about his internal current state. Because I believed that lasting change around here was so hard, I thought I was protecting people, he said quietly. From watching the improvements that they made quietly fade away. The ghost's face softened. I know, the ghost said. That's why someone else needs to show you what protecting people looks like today. The walls dissolved, the conference room faded, and Gemberson felt himself pulled forward. He landed in the middle of his own facility, late on the night of December 22nd. Lines were still running. A skeleton crew of tired but capable operators moved like they'd rehearsed this last-minute chaos every year, which, of course, they had. Beside him stood a second presence, calmer, more grounded, with a clipboard in one hand and a coffee mug in the other. I am the ghost of present performance, she said. Walk with me, Gemberson. Steel-toed shoes are optional, a helmet and goggles are not. They stood at one station where an operator had made a little paper checklist and taped it to a machine. Nobody gave him that list, the ghost whispered. He made it after the same order shipped wrong for the third straight time. That checklist? It's not in any SOP. It's pure poka-yoke on a Post-it note. There's no official improvement program here. People go to work and try their best, but the annoyance level is off the charts. They moved to a packing area where someone had improvised a visual cue with duct tape and sticky notes. That board, she continued, she made it on her lunch break, powered by her favorite coffee and sheer determination to not send out the wrong thing. Again. Gemberson watched as people worked around broken handoffs, unclear priorities, and missing information. They're doing Kaizen, the ghost said. They just don't call it that. And they're doing it alone, in pockets, under the radar, because they've learned not to expect support. Gemberson turned away and winced. Okay, this isn't great, but aren't we hitting our numbers? He asked weakly. The ghost raised an eyebrow. You are, to an extent, the ghost replied, but only if you don't count turnover, rework, and churn as numbers. They watched one supervisor juggle instant messages, emails, and a cell phone while triaging the same issue for the 5th time this month. You canceled tomorrow's Kaizen, the ghost reminded Gemberson. You told yourself you were saving people from another initiative that won't stick. The ghost gestured around them. This is what sticks now, she said. Firefighting is a way of life. Quiet workarounds instead of shared learning. This is what your own internal current state looks like on the floor. The room dimmed, the hum of the machine stretched into a long, low note, and the ghost's voice softened. Time is up. Someone else is waiting. And no, it's not HR. This time, when the scene snapped into focus, there was no movement at all. The building looked the same. The same walls, the same lines, the same break room microwave that always flashes 12 like a VCR from the 80s. But the energy was gone. The third figure was already there, watching Grant. No binders, no charts, just a quiet presence with an empty clipboard and a nice-looking tie. I am the ghost of future states. Let me show you 2 possibilities. First, Gemberson saw the future if there were no changes to his internal current state. Operators moved faster, but with less care. Shortcuts had become the norm, not the exception. Turnover was higher. New team members barely had time to learn names before they were thrown into the deep end. That one key customer you tossed and turned thinking about? They've moved on, and that customer's employees are posting on social media about their inconsistent experiences with your company. People had stopped offering ideas, not because they didn't have any, but because nothing ever happened when they did. This is what happens, the ghost said. when the system relies on heroics and good intentions indefinitely, when improvement is optional or considered tomorrow's job. Gemberson swallowed. And the other possibility, he asked? The ghost nodded, and the scene shifted again. Same building, same people mostly, same break room microwave, but it was no longer flashing 12. It actually had the right time. Some things were different, though. There was a rhythm to the day that hadn't been there before. At the start of a shift, a small team huddled around a simple board. They looked at yesterday's results, circled one hiccup, and agreed on a few small experiments for today. Later that afternoon, a company leader visited the floor and went to where the work is done. That leader asked questions like, "What's getting in your way? And what do you think we can do better?" Those answers were taken seriously and not seen as complaints. There were no massive banners, no pizza parties, just small, visible, continuous tweaks that had accumulated into smoother flow, fewer surprises, and people who looked happier and more engaged. Gemberson watched a machine operator point to a change she suggested last month. It wasn't a big thing, the operator said, but we actually tried it, and it stuck. It felt good to be part of a change like that. We don't chase fires here anymore. We prevent them with PDCA on repeat. The ghost turned to Gemberson. This future doesn't arrive with a flip of a switch, the ghost said. It arrives the way all futures do, with small decisions made over and over. The lesson from your past isn't improvement doesn't last here, Grant. It's improvement that lives only in projects and binders is fragile. Improvements woven into how you lead is durable. The ghost paused. You don't have to become the spirit of Kaizen future state, the ghost added. Just maybe retire your role as the ghost of we tried that once. Gemberson opened his mouth to answer, but the scene faded. He woke up staring at his bedroom ceiling. His heart was racing. And for a moment, Gemberson wondered if he'd just had a very oddly themed dream. Then he remembered the calendar. He grabbed his phone. There it was. Year-end Kaizen event, moved to January. Gemberson sat up, with his thumb hovering over the screen. It would be easy, incredibly easy, to keep it in January. After all, things were busy. They were always busy. But the images wouldn't fade. The energized team in that first project, the quiet erosion after the reorg, the improvised checklists on the night shift, the two futures. He dragged the Kaizen event back to today. Then, almost against type, Gemberson added a note. I'll be there. Let's keep this simple and focused. Bring real problems. He hesitated, then added a second line. Yes, there will be coffee. No, there will not be a 2-hour slide deck. A few hours later, as people trickled into the small conference room with their mugs and their skepticism, they did a double take. Gemberson was already there. He wasn't at the head of the table with a speech. He wasn't holding a stack of slides. He was standing by a whiteboard with an open marker saying, "Okay, what's a problem that's driving you nuts that we could actually fix before lunch?" The answers started cautiously, but before long, people answered more confidently, then with a little laughter. They didn't redesign the whole system that morning. They didn't need to. They fixed one thing, and they agreed to meet again. From that day forward, the legend goes, Grant Gemberson kept Kaizen not just in his heart, but in his calendar. And every December, when someone suggested canceling an improvement day just this once, he'd grin and say, "Careful, I know 3 ghosts who do spot checks."
Thank you to MoreSteam's own Josh Cantie for the excellent narration of our holiday tale. That was great, Josh. And thank you again for spending a little quality time with us and for making 2025 such a phenomenal year for the podcast. We really appreciate it. People listen to the show in a lot of different ways. You might be listening on your commute or during a workout, or maybe you're in a meeting you're not sure why you were invited to, and you're listening to the show while you're muted. Whatever the circumstance, it means a lot that you choose to hang out with us every 2 weeks as we learn more about continuous improvement and operational excellence. There's plenty more on the way in 2026, more conversations with thought leaders and practitioners, and more stories from the Gemba. Until then, happy holidays, take care of yourself and your teams, and we'll see you in 2026 for more quality time with MoreSteam. Thanks again.